أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Tawassul. Also many felicitations on this grand occasion of the wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, today being the 13th of Rajab. Inshallah, we'll start our program with the recitation of Dua Tawassul, followed by our regular discussions that we've been having on this Tuesday night, of course, with relevance to the wiladat of Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Master dua. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات فاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, just a reminder, this Thursday we will be commemorating the wafat of Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha. Program starts with the Salatul Isha at 7 p.m. Followed by Shab Jum'ah Amal, and inshallah we'll have So Salam Marsiya followed by the Majlis. This Sunday also will have an interactive session with Dr. Syed Amar Nashwani, a presentation by Masjid-e-Ali Youth Group under the title of Addicted to Social Media. This will be part 2 of the discussion that they had last month. So that program, inshallah, will be on this Sunday, which will be February the 20th, starting at 2:30 p.m. Of course, this program is online only. So do join in for all of these programs that inshallah will be taking place in the coming nights. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا ووسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بؤثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بذنبهم يومئذ لخبير صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. As we started this discussion last week, before I get into the tafsir of this surah number 100 from the Holy Quran called Surah al-Adiyat, I chose this surah in our discussion tonight. If you remember that we began our discussions last week and we decided to do the tafsir of Quran, but not a tafsir which will be in too much details, rather very concise and abridged tafsir of Quran. And the hope was to cover all of these shorter surahs from the Quran and one surah in each setting, or each sitting rather. I chose the surah with the munasabat of the wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. That this surah has, as many chapters of Quran, have some sort of relationship with Amir al-Mu'mineen, a connection with the acts of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the ayat where Imam gives zakat, the ayat was revealed for that, وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ. Surah al-Adiyat has a link with the battle that took place in Tawassul. Therefore, this surah has a link to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad also has a very close link to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Prophet said, Ya Ali, mathaluka fin nasi ka mathal surati Qul Huwallahu Ahad. O Ali, your example amongst the people is the example of Qul Huwallahu Ahad. How so? فَمَنْ قَرَأَهَا مَرَّةً فَكَأَنَّمَا قَرَأَ ثُلْثَ الْقُرْآنِ. Whoever recited it once, it is as if they have recited 1/3 of Quran. وَمَنْ قَرَأَهَا مَرَّتَيْنِ فَكَأَنَّمَا قَرَأَ ثُلْثَيْ الْقُرْآنِ. And whoever recited it twice, it is as if they have recited the 2/3 of Quran. وَمَنْ قَرَأَهَا ثَلَاثَ مَرَّاتٍ فَكَأَنَّمَا قَرَأَ الْقُرْآنَ كُلَّهُ. And a person who recited it 3 times, it is as if they have recited the entire Quran. Now he said, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنْتَ يَا عَلِي. And similar are you, O Ali. فَمَنْ أَحَبَّكَ بِقَلْبِهِ. The one who loves you with his heart. فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ ثُلْثَ الْإِيمَانِ. That person has indeed established or possessed 1/3 of Iman. وَمَنْ أَحَبَّكَ بِقَلْبِهِ وَلِسَانِهِ. And whoever loves you with their hearts and with their tongue, meaning heart, in the heart the love of Ali is there, and on the tongue love of Ali and the madh of Ali is there. So فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ ثُلْثَيْ الْإِيمَانِ. Indeed, this person has possessed or accumulated 2/3 of Iman. وَمَنْ أَحَبَّكَ بِقَلْبِهِ وَلِسَانِهِ وَيَدِهِ. And whoever loves you with their heart, with their tongue, and with their hands. Now, with the heart, you understand having the love. With the tongue, you mention the madah of and the praise of Ali. And with your hands, you defend what Ali said and you refrain from what Ali did. And you stand up for Ali ibn Abi Talib. فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ الْإِيمَانِ كُلُّهُ. Indeed, that person, إِيمَانَ كُلَّهُ, that indeed that person has attained the entire Iman. So there are many ayat of Quran, ayat of Quran under which there are riwayat which mention the strong connection Imam Ali has with Quran and many of these ayat. Al-Quranu ma'a Ali. That Quran is with Ali and Ali is with Quran. They will not separate from one another, which is just the supplement to Inni tarikum fikum muttaqalan, that I leave behind you 2 weighty things. Very quickly, in the next 10-15 minutes, I'll go through the tafsir of this surah, surah number 100, Surah al-Adiyat. It begins, وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. I swear by the runners breathing pantingly. Then those that produce fire striking. Then those that make raids at morning time. Then thereby raise dust. then rush thereby upon an assembly. Most surely man is ungrateful to his Lord, and most surely he is a witness of that. And most surely he is tenacious in the love of wealth. Does he not know then when what is in the graves will be risen back again? Or does he not know then when what is in the graves is raised, and what is in the chests is made apparent? And most surely their Lord that day shall be fully aware of them. It's a very rhythmic ayat of Quran in the surah, which has rhymes at the end of the qafiyah, towards the end of each ayat. ضبحا والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا ووسطن به جمعا. You see how they're going in this qafiyah. Adiyat is a plural for adiyah, which is mu'annas for adi, which is ismul fa'il, referred to the running horses. Asl was, the original was aduv, from advu, and dal and waw, which then, of course, with the qaida in Arabic, waw was converted into ya, so it became adi or adi. Adv or adi literally means to trespass. Since running is trespassing the normal way of walking, and you can normally walk or you can just run. So when you go out of normal walk and you run, it's trespassing the normal walk. It's called adu. There are three types, of course, that are mentioned, which I'll come to later. The word dabr is the sound when horses breathe heavily while they're running. So if you've ever been around horses, when the horses are running, when they're breathing heavily, and same goes for humans, that when you and I are running, we're panting. That sound, that breathing heavily, is called dabr. The word qadr is the spark that comes from striking of fire stones. You got these two stones, when they strike together, it produces a spark. Back in the day, they used to use it for this very purpose. Al-Mughirat comes from igara, means running quickly. Subhan, of course, refers to the morning time, but is a metaphor for ambushing your enemy in the early hours of the morning. The ayat which says, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ, and most surely insan is tenacious in the love of the wealth. And some of the other scolding attributes of regarding mankind are mentioned in Quran, such as insan is called zaluman jahula, that he's very tyrant and he's ignorant. Halu'a, that means he's very haris, meaning greedy. Ya'usa, he loses hope quickly. Kafura, very, very ungrateful. Jazu'a, impatient. Manu'a, which is another word for bakhil, stingy. But on the contrary, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also mentioned some very positive attributes of insan as well, such as karramna, that means we have honored insan. Faddalna, that we have given them preference and priority over others. Ahsan taqweem, that we created them to be the best of the creations. And, blowing my soul into Adam, nafakhtu fihi min ruhi, and so on and so forth. Here, Quran uses the word khair for the worldly wealth, worldly treasures, the materialistic, aspect of this world. The hubbil khair is being referred to. This is to make us understand that wealth must be earned from halal and righteous means, and must be spent in the righteous places and with the right intentions. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word hubbil khair. Overall meaning of this chapter: number one, remembering the day of judgment, revealing the secrets of that day. Number two, the high rank of the Muslim soldiers, that, the surah, there's a Shan and Nuzul and the revelation, which I'll get to later on. And number three, love of riches and ingratitude by people, those who have not been done proper tarbiyat, those who have not been properly raised, their ingratitude. We see the name of the surah comes from the first initial ayat, which says wal-Adiyat. Allah starts the surah by taking an oath, a qasam, wal-Adiyat. This word has appeared only once in Quran. Nowhere else would you find this word except in this chapter. So therefore the chapter is known as wal-Adiyat, by the runners breathing pantingly. There are 11 verses, 40 words, and 163 letters. As I said, this is the 100th chapter in the current order of surahs in Quran. And chronologically speaking, it is the 14th chapter revealed after Surah al-Asr. And there are different opinions regarding that. Inshallah, we'll touch upon those as well in the next couple of minutes. What are some of the aims and the objectives? The main objectives is what I just mentioned, that recalling the weakness of people without proper tarbiyat, that they fall victim to the worldly riches and the materialism. The high rank of the Muslim soldiers, warriors, those who become ghazi, or those who become shaheed. And number 3, remembrance of the resurrection is mentioned towards the end. The contents and the topics of the surah. The surah begins with the qasam wal-Adiyat dabha, to awaken the human being, and then mention some of the weaknesses that an insan has. Disbelief, he's stingy, falls for the materialism. Then the chapter highlights the issue of resurrection, qayamat, and God's knowledge regarding human beings bring the chapter towards the end, Now the features that we have of this surah is that Ubay ibn Ka'ab narrates from the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, whoever recites the surah will be rewarded in the amount of the number of people present and awake in the plains of Muzdalifah while al-Hajj on the night of Eid al-Adha, and those who had been to Arafat already. So you go to Arafat first in Hajj, the manasik Hajj, you go to Arafat, you spend the day there, and then after spending the day in Arafat, you move to Muzdalifah and you spend the night there. Rasulullah said, whoever recites the surah will be rewarded the amount of number of people that present. And so hundreds and thousands of people are present at that location every year. Sulaiman ibn Khalid narrates from our sixth Imam, who said, whoever recites this surah and repeats it, Allah will raise this person with Amir al-Mu'mineen on the day of judgment and keep him in the company of Imam in the same hujra, same room. Here we see the relationship that the surah has with Amir al-Mu'mineen, which will become apparent. Place of revelation. Ibn Abbas and Qatada, they narrate that the surah was revealed in Medina, while some indicated it was Makkah. The fact that ayat are small and there are a lot of, there's an oath in it, that it begins with an oath. And moreover, the discussions are surrounding Qayamat and resurrection are all indications that it was revealed in Makkah. So if you want to look at the spot out the ayat or the surahs that are revealed in Makkah, has to do with resurrection. Number 2, you will find oaths in it. And more than likely, you'll find them to be placed in the 30th juz of Quran. So these are some of the, and their ayat are smaller. These are some of the indications that these surahs are Makki, but the longer ones are then Madani. But from another aspect, the oath in this chapter are more in line with the rules of jihad, which was not present while we were in Makkah. There weren't any battles that were taking place in Makkah. Only battles began after Rasulullah migrated to Medina. Similarly, there are narrations that suggest that this chapter was revealed after the battle of Dhatul Salasil. All these indicate that this chapter was probably revealed in Medina. Even if, take the oaths in the beginning of the chapter to be the movement of pilgrims toward Mina and Mash'arul Haram, still is appropriate that it was revealed in Medina. Now, there might be a debate. Why is it important? It's important for many reasons. Time of revelation, it was either revealed before the migration of Muslims to Abyssinia and after Surah al-Asr. On the other hand, it might be around the time of Battle of Dhatul Salasil, as I mentioned earlier, where Amir al-Mu'mineen leading the army to the battlefield after multiple failed attempts. The battle took place in the 7th century Hijri, 7th year after Hijrah, And hence the chapter must be also revealed around that time. There's a lengthy hadith from 6th Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq والسلام, in Majmul Bayan, Tafsir Majmul Bayan. The author narrates from Imam, Prophet sent a few ashab to the battlefield, to Tawassul. They all came back unsuccessful. In the end, he sent Amir al-Mu'mineen, who came back victorious. The reason behind this name is that group of enemy were killed and a group were made captives, and the captives were tied with a rope and chained together. And that's how they were brought in. So, you know, when you're tied in ropes and whatnot, chains, you'll breathe heavily, and wal-adiyat dabha. It says also in the detailed hadith, which says حدثنا Muhammad ibn Thabit, that he narrates, I asked Sa'altu Aba Abdullah an qawlillah, from the qawl and the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-adiyat dabha. قال وجه رسول الله عمر بن الخطاب في السرية. Rasulullah sent Umar ibn Khattab to Syria. Syria are those battles where Rasulullah himself did not take part. فرجع منهزما يجبن أصحابه ويجبنونه أصحابه. No, and then Rasulullah فلما انتهى إلى النبي قال لعلي أنت صاحب القوم. Then Rasulullah sent Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he said to him, أنت صاحب القوم فتهيأ أنت ومن تريده من فرسان المهاجرين. Get ready, and whoever you want to bring along with you from the horse riders of Muhajirin and Ansar. فوجهه Rasulullah, and then Rasulullah, when he asked him to go, فقال له أكمن النهار وسر الليل. You know, hide during the daytime and move during the night time. ولا تفارق العين. Nobody sees you, so that nobody sees you. Then he says, فقال فانتهى علي, Imam Ali left, إلى ما أمر به رسول الله, to what Rasulullah had ordered him and asked him to do. فسار إليهم, he reached that place. فلما كان عند وجه الصبح أغار عليهم, when it was the morning time. فالمغيرات صبحا, that ayat. When it was the morning time, Amir al-Mu'mineen attacked. فأنزل الله على نبيه والعاديات ضبحا إلى آخره. At this point, when Amir al-Mu'mineen attacked the enemy in the morning time, as-subh aghara alayhim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down this surah. Since the surah was revealed, Prophet recited in the morning prayer for the first time. After the salat, the companions said to the Prophet, we've never heard of this surah before. Rasul said, yes. Jibreel informed me of this news, this surah, and he informed me of the news that Ali ibn Abi Talib has achieved victory over the enemies. They're not here. They're in Tawassul where this battle is taking place. But, and of course, there aren't any mechanisms of communication, but Rasulullah, of course, has this means where Jibreel informs him of things. Rasulullah said, yes, Ali has achieved victory over the enemies. Jibreel gave me this news in the night time. And then after a few days later, Amir al-Mu'mineen arrived in Medina along with the spoils of war and the captives. So this is the tafsir and the background of when the surah and why the surah was revealed. Some of the features of the surah is that Surah al-Adiyat is amongst the mufassalat. Ibn Qutaybah, he said mufassalat are the short chapters that are after the mathani. They're called mufassal due to their brevity and that they are disconnected with one another, the other shorter chapters, with Bismillah. They're also known as muhkamat because there's rarely any abrogated ayat in them. There are three types of mufassalat: long, medium, and short. Rasulullah says, "U'titu su'ar al-tawal makan al-tawrat, wa'utitu al-mi'ain makan al-injil, وَعُؤْتِيتُ الْمَثَانِي مَكَانَ الزَّبُورِ وَفُصِّلَتْ بِالْمُفَصَّلِ ثَمَانٌ وَسِتُّونَ سُورَةً." He said that I was given the long surahs, the lengthy surahs that you have, the 7 lengthy surahs that you have, in place of Torah, the Old Testament. And I was given the surahs which have 100 ayat, mi'ain, in place of Bible. And I was given the chapters that are called mathani, which are shorter than them, in place of Zabur or the Psalms of David. وَفُضِّلْتُ بِالْمُفَصَّلِ 80 و60 surah. And then he says, وَفُضِّلْتُ, and I was given fadilat with these mufassal. I was given extra with these mufassal chapters of Quran, which are 68 in number. And then he said, وَهُوَ مُهَيْمُنٌ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكُتُبِ وَالتَّوْرَاةِ لِمُوسَى وَالْإِنْجِيلِ لِعِيسَى وَالزَّبُورِ لِدَاوُودَ. So from here we understand how Rasulullah mentions these mufassalat. These are the shortest of the surahs. There are about 68 of them, and Surah al-Adiyat is part of the mufassalat. This is a brief discussion, of course, regarding this chapter number 100 from the Holy Quran, wal-Adiyat dabha, which, of course, as you mentioned, has a very close connection with Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, and we thought it would be appropriate to recite this on the day in which we celebrate the Wiladati ba Sa'adat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq to ponder, think, and contemplate in these ayat of Quran. May Quran to be part of our daily recitation and understanding. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bihaqqi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, give us the tawfiq that we are amongst those who follow the commands of Ma'asumeen and the commands of Quran. We ask Allah to hasten the reappearance of His awaited Imam and make us amongst the soldiers and the awan and the helpers of Imam. Wa akhir da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Mutawajjih ziyarah. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Khiratullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah, assalamu alaikum ibn Rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abik wa ala ummika wa akhik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Gharib al-Ghuraba, assalamu alaikum ya Mu'in al-Du'afa wal-Fuqara. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض طوس علي بن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد.